I think there's a prospect for us to all be working on growing and sustaining the economy while we reduce our carbon emissions, which in Arizona, we're down 13% in our carbon emissions over the last 10 years, while growing our economy. And, with generally up until COVID, actually having a surplus, in the state budget. So we know we can do this, right? A greener economy doesn't mean a less robust economy. It can mean booming economy plus, but decarbonizing, because it's a pollutant that we can do without. And we're in a particularly good spot here in Arizona because, of course, we have hydro, we've got nuclear, we've got solar, we've got wind. And these are growing technologies with new implementations all the time. I just see this as a win-win where sustainability and prosperity are aligned in this case, that clean air, clean water, and a lower rate of warming for us would be terrific. Because boy, I don't know about you, but I have two little kids, and well, they're not that little, but this summer was very hot, and throwing them outside to play was always kind of one of those push pulls, meaning you don't want it to be dangerous for them, and keeping them from burning is one thing, but heat stroke is real when you are that hot for that long. That was a pretty eye-opening summer. And then the fires, and the bad air quality that comes with the accelerating forest fires, et cetera. This was a whopper.
So I think last summer was a big wake-up call for people.
I think
because
so too.
Even in Phoenix, you talk about the previous record number of 110-degree days at 33, and we did 53. We didn't just beat the record, like we blew it out of the water.
Our previous 100-degree day record was 98, and we went up to 108. I mean, that was we've been keeping records since 1895.
Yeah.
So this is monstrous. It really is. So it's something and we're poised to tackle it. I mean, not just in our state, but, nationwide. This is something that could be an innovation engine, right? I mean, every university, and so I'm not sure about the high level sort of regulatory, et cetera. I know that some of that will probably have to happen, but at the same time, what I'm more excited about is the sort of boots on the ground adaptation and mitigation that's going on, at our level, for our weather forecasts, for our, the fantastic new prediction science where we're doing full Earth system prediction. So the same thing that helps support, same model like the one behind me that's supporting our weather forecast is also supporting ocean forecasts, including things like fisheries, algal blooms, and the impacts of things like acidification, where that excess CO2 that's, being absorbed by the ocean is basically lowering the pH, acidifying the ocean over time. So, and then other things like getting into forest fire outlooks and management of our natural resources and air quality. Those are the same models, right? These can be integrated now in a way that was not, wasn't possible 10 years ago, but now is through innovation. And I keep thinking, who doesn't want to manage their supply chain better? Who doesn't want to be able to predict the Arctic sea ice in a way that makes real sense for our shipping, for our military, et cetera? These are opportunities. Not everybody's looking at it as just sort of, oh, well, it'll be a cost. Well, or we could get a march on the rest of the world and sell it to them. Wouldn't it be great?
And then if you think about like the long-term cost of things, right? Many people will argue we're spending more money not adapting now. If you look at the long-term total.
Did you look at our disaster numbers this year?
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, here in Arizona, I don't know about you, but my air conditioning bill was ridiculous this summer. I mean, because I just couldn't stand it after a while. But turn the AC down. I just can't. I got to be able to sleep at night. The kids too. And then, but those are small things, not a disaster. Then there was the flooding, the fires. This was, and a lot of these are now attributed to or are consistent with this changing climate baseline. And a lot of people look at the atmospheric temperatures and go, oh, I'm not convinced. I'm like, well, it's getting pretty hot in here. We're setting all these records, and they're never the cold records. They're almost always the heat records, right? Yeah. And then there's the fact that our ocean is it absorbs basically 93% of that imbalance in the whole planet. So some of it radiated back out to space, but every year we have that Earth's radiation budget experiment, which is a series of satellites that sits out at the edge of the atmosphere, looks out at the sun and in at the Earth, and says about the same radiation is coming in every year from the sun, but less is getting out every year. And you're like, well, where'd it go? Every year is not the hottest year, so where'd it go? Well, 93% of it has been absorbed by the ocean, which is why we can have a year like this, which was a La Nina. And so normally you wouldn't expect this to be our hottest year, and yet it's rivaling the hottest year ever, even in a La Nina state. So this is a big deal. If you make a mess, you clean the mess, right? If you that we pay to put our trash out, right? That when we create garbage, trash, an impact, that it's our job individually and as a group to mitigate that, so that we're not leaving our kids and our grandkids in a big mess. Right. Which arguably we're treating our atmosphere as a global commons where there's no price to dumping, and you can dump anything you want into that atmosphere and no one will tell you you can't. And what happens is that we end up with this the CO2 just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. We're at, over 410 parts per million. And when I started teaching, it was down at 365. It's really going fast. This is scary. The trends here are concerning, and they are right on track for those predictions that have been made using climate and weather models since the 80s. So we're what we predicted would happen when we added all this additional CO2 to the atmosphere, the physical changes, the chemical changes, they've come to pass. It's like being you guys are, you get judged on how well did you actually predict that rain, and have to explain why it was spotty, because that's how it is. We have similar problems, but the track record is excellent. And these days, everybody, including places like Walmart, every major Fortune 500 company is basically getting climate consulting in order to, climate proof their businesses, their supply chains, their warehouses, their assets, et cetera. They want to know what are those climate risks, and more of their stakeholders, of their stockholders are asking to make sure that those things are planned in. And you'll see this in, battles at every board meeting between ExxonMobil and Amazon. There's momentum here. We get it. We're hot. It's dangerous to do construction in the summer when it's that hot. There's limits to our business and prosperity. If you want to build houses, how are you going to do that when it's that hot that your workers could die? Yeah. We know we need to get ahead of this, and we had a head start because of investments that our grandparents made in the dams, in the nuclear power plant at Palo Verde, and now our investments in solar, in wind, et cetera. We plan ahead, right? We've got 100-year water law. We plan ahead. I am really excited about living in and building in Arizona. I think this is the place to do it.
Well, and nationwide, you think about the big projects that we've done, the railroad system, the interstate system.
That's right.
We've done major overhauls in our country before for infrastructure. This is not beyond our capabilities, but it's just beyond the will of some.
Exactly. So we talk about it out loud. We talk about the consequences of our current actions, about the trajectories we're on. We do the math. We figure out when we can do these calculations, this is not funny. And I always think everybody's like, oh, it's such a big problem. Like, well, we were making 300 planes a month at the beginning of World War II, and over, we made 100,000 in a month by the end. Yeah. It just is a matter of urgency. And at some point, and I feel like maybe in New York or New Jersey or something, they don't feel that urgency because it's just a little rain, maybe a little more frequent flooding, and they don't feel it. And they maybe don't recognize that additional flooding as part of global warming. However, we here in Arizona get the brunt, right? We just get it right in the face. You walk outside, woof, you're cooking, you don't wear your necklace anymore because it'll hurt.
Guys, it
You
fries
know,
the skin.
yes, exactly. You go to sit in your car and you grab the steering wheel and you think, oh, I need to get one of those covers that the old ladies have.
Yeah.
Really, seriously, we
Yeah.
get it. We know because it's just plain hotter. But so I'm hoping we'll lead, and I hope that that'll lead to, growth in our sustainability industries. So, what a neat way what a great trajectory for a state like Arizona that's so beautiful and so full of so many engineers, techies, scientists, et cetera. We are good at this. So I'm hopeful. I really am. And I feel like if we could turn it here in the desert, there isn't anywhere that wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? We could
Yeah.
lead.
Yeah. It's kind of like you can make a city work. If you can make a city work in Phoenix, you can make it work anywhere, right? I mean, we face
Exactly.
such natural obstacles just in our way of life that if we could do
That's right.
we could be an
If
example
you
for
if
everyone.
we can do it in Phoenix, we can do it anywhere. And if Phoenix leads, then the rest of the world will follow, because really what you're cracking the back on is decarbonizing power, efficiency, and also ways to grow industry around it to get better information, better ideas, and growth of jobs and great opportunities that align with this new, more sustainable trajectory. And I don't see why not. I'm really, I'm like, ASU has their Global Institute of Sustainability, et cetera. These are exciting times to be part of this in Arizona, and it's so great because we have, to be honest, a lot of the best communication is not going on at the universities; it's going on at our weather people who are actually communicating how hot it is and how unusual that is and why that matters. So really exciting.